not want trouble with Rome. That's really important. Sadducees wanted no problems with Rome. Remember Rome with its lex talionis. Lex talionis was kind of a principle that governed Roman law and Roman jurisprudence. Talionis. Lex talionis. It's like the law of the claw, doesn't it? If you think of eye for eye, bruise for bruise, stripe for stripe, wound for wound, this is the way Rome did it. And Rome crushed their enemies. And the Sadducees were opportunists. Let's get along, and we'll be okay. Now, the Sadducees were done. They were gone by AD 70. What happened in AD 70?
Destruction.
That's right. The temple was destroyed. So what were the Sadducees associated with again? The temple. So when the temple was destroyed, that was it. No more Sadducees. Now, let's turn our attention now to the Essenes. The Essenes. I'm really interested in the Essenes. If you can see in your mind, I wish I could go back to the slide. I can't. It's on a different program. I don't want to walk down there. But remember the scene of the cave there, the Dead Sea Scrolls. We'll tell the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls quickly, and then get into these Essenes. So far we've had the Pharisees and the Sadducees. We'll have Essenes and Zealots, Herodians, and Sicarii to go. All right, Essenes, the Essenes. Josephus describes these people in his book, The War of the Jews. They are not mentioned in the New Testament, as you know. If you can see the Pharisees splitting and coming out of them is a real strict sect, that's the Essenes.
Say it one more time.
They were an offshoot of the Pharisees. Offshoot of the Pharisees. You can see the Pharisees splitting, with some Pharisees saying we're staying right here and maintaining our standing in the community, and some saying we've had enough. We got to get away from the Romans. We've got to get a lot more strict. These are the Essenes. The Essenes, we don't know much about their origin, not really, but the Dead Sea Scrolls are a source of information about the Essenes. Dead Sea Scrolls and Josephus tell us about these folks. Some people say that these are Jews who came back from Babylon just before the Maccabean period. So these are Jews who were in Babylon for several hundred years and came back and didn't like what they found and just went to the desert. Now, let me draw a real crude map here. I had the opportunity to be in Israel and see cave number 4, which we saw a picture of a couple hours ago. So we know the drill here. So here we have Lake Hula up here, Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea. There's Jerusalem. So here we have the desert down in here, and the Essenes, this at Qumran. Here's another one of those words where you can be an internet expert. Look up Qumran. And in 1947, a Bedouin boy was in the desert here, and the story is he's taking care of his father's goats, and he throws a rock up into that cave number 7, and he heard something break. And so some exploring was done, and here are these, you can see them in the shrine of the book museum there. Here were these 4-foot tall clay jars. Well, they didn't know what they found, and they sold them, and thank God somebody got a hold of those and realized what they were and began to translate the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among other things, the Old Testament, the books of the Old Testament are in the Dead Sea Scrolls with one exception. Do you know which book they didn't copy? Esther. Do you know why? It didn't have the king. That's right. It didn't have the name of God. The covenant name of God was not in that book. They didn't copy that one. But I'm so glad these people copied these scrolls. Now, let me give you just a quick reason here why. First of all, we have insight into this community. But before the Dead Sea Scrolls, so before 1947, the oldest manuscripts of our Bible went to about AD 900. With the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we were able to reach back into time that far, about 1100 years to 200 BC. Has anybody ever said this to you? Oh, the Bible's been copied so many times, you can't trust it. You say 3 words to them, Dead Sea Scrolls. Because we reached back into time, 11 centuries, with the discovery of these wonderful documents. And guess what? There was consistency there. When somebody says to you, but we don't have the original books. We don't have anything signed by Paul. We don't have anything signed by Luke. We don't have anything signed by Isaiah. That's true. But you look it up this evening and see if this isn't true. With the Old Testament, we have about 44,000 manuscripts. Much more than any other book from antiquity. And with the New Testament, depending on how these are counted, now these numbers are a little bit, I've seen it as low as 5,000 manuscripts. And some of the websites I've checked say 40,000 plus manuscripts make up our New Testament. I want you to think with me for just a minute. Suppose that every single copy of Melville's classic, Moby Dick, suppose that every single first edition of that book, every single first edition would suddenly vanish from the earth. Could we reconstruct Moby Dick? Of course! I don't know how many copies, 500,000 copies of that book. So if all those copies agreed with one another, with minor things, grammatical things perhaps, we would be able to say with confidence, we can reconstruct the original. And we can with our Bibles. We know we don't have the original autographa, we know that. But these Essenes did us a great favor. And I'm so happy that those were discovered. And now let's meet the Essenes. We've learned a few things about them. A, they copied these wonderful scrolls. B, they're an offshoot of the Pharisees. And now the next thing we want to learn is this. They were ascetic. A-S-C-E-T-I-C. They were ascetic. That means they abstained from fleshly things in order to grow closer to God. They lived a very strict lifestyle. Number 2, they didn't get married. They were celibate. Yeah, that's going to die out. That's what happened to them. They eventually, I don't know. We don't have any kids. I don't. Do you?
I'm short-sighted.
Yeah. These guys, with that kind of a setup, you wouldn't buy green bananas. You know what I mean? There's no tomorrow here. So. Number 3, they lived in seclusion, and they had all things in common. So they practiced a pure form of communism without the ideology, and that everything belonged to everybody. A very simple lifestyle. They did believe in heaven and hell, not the way we do, but they believed in a place of torment and a place of blessing. They rejected all oath-taking, very restrained and sober in their lifestyle. Since they withdrew from society, they're not mentioned in any of the Gospels. And 2 historians, this guy and Philo, say that at their heyday, there were about 4,000 of these people. They considered the temple priesthood corrupt. They which they were right. They rejected a lot of the temple ritual and the sacrificial system. They saw society as divided into 2 parts, the sons of light and the sons of darkness. And one of their scrolls mentions the teacher of righteousness. I think this was just the teacher, but that's not Jesus. Don't be confused by that. They did practice an apocalyptic faith. They believed that this world was going to end in a cataclysm, as we believe. But the bad thing is they believed in several messiahs, 2, maybe 3. Well, when the temple went down in AD 70, that was kind of a blow to what they expected. And from then we sort of lose track of them. When somebody tells you, oh, John the Baptist was an Essene. No. Jesus was an Essene. No. No. If You read that, heard that, you've seen that? All right, let's go to the Zealots. Let's go to the Zealots. The Zealots. They appear in Palestine first under the leadership of a guy named Judas, the son of Ezekias, and that's during the early years of the Roman rule. So if you put this date in your mind, Pompey comes into Jerusalem in 63 BC.